Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be back with another Young Indian, as usual, a smiling face, part of the Voice of the Young series. Right now, we have with us Mishthi Khurana. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Mishthi.
Hello everyone, my name is Mishthi and I am currently in my second year at University of Delhi ARSD College. I am pursuing my majors in economics alongside a minor in political science. First of all, I would really like to thank Subodh sir for bringing up this revolutionary platform, especially for all of us young Indians who are here who can talk about their journeys and whatever they would like to share on this platform. And I've had a great time navigating college life, and I'll talk about my journey so far and whatever I can impart better to make change happen. And that is exactly what also Subodh sir also had mentioned, that we need big change, and we also need that there are things that get created, and I really resonate with the same thought as well. My interests basically lies in social impact, public policy, development economics, and I've had a brief experience in community service as well. So I've been really passionate about community service since a long time. Ever since sixth grade, I've had a good time in understanding how I can go ahead and volunteer at different places, non-governmental organizations, and not just at different NGOs, but also for people around me. And that is something that has really helped me in understanding what sort of uh, social construct that exists in the society, and the kind of things that we do experience as people, and the kind of things that we can do for others and for ourselves, because it also makes us feel good, and it also teaches us on as to how we should be going about understanding other people and ourselves. So firstly, I would be really happy to share about my experience in community service. So I started with the help of my mother, who's also been an active volunteer. I started it when I was in fifth grade. And since then, I've been volunteering at different NGOs, mostly related to education and mostly related to having a greater social practices where people can learn about having better menstrual health, having better education, and also having uh, more knowledge on how they can improve themselves as individuals, especially those who have lesser access to education and better facilities. So I have, I had, alongside that, I had also been a part of my school's Interact Club, where I could see that I could also volunteer as a school student at different places. I have been to different schools like Sarv Shiksha Abhiyans and a lot of government schools where I could not only participate as a student but also teach other people as to what I have with myself and share it with others. Uh, Eventually, I also served as a zonal interact representative during my high school days as a part of the Rotary district. And then I had also decided to join a Rotaract club where I served as the director of vocational services during my first year. So my brief experience in community service led me to gain that position and understand how we can implement greater vocational projects. So on that, I had initiated two projects as a part of my Rotaract Club. The very first one was a charity Diwali Mela, where we did a fundraiser, where we had a fundraiser event in Delhi, where all of us we were. I was a part of a Rotaract Club called Rotaract Club of Delhi Yuva, where I participated as one of the team leads, and I led to. We had volunteering projects, and we had different businesses join us, and we had different performances which people could gain access to, and all the money that was raised through it was then donated to an NGO for senior citizens. And one project that was led by me eventually during my time as the director there was on creating eco-friendly holy products. So as we know that there is a need for eco-friendly and sustainable practices, so we decided on to having eco-friendly holy colors. We taught them to women and also to children. Mostly it was more focused on women empowerment so that they could gain a skill and have a vocational training session, and those vocational training sessions did help them in having in gaining money. So we taught them two things. Mostly was understanding how they can sell their product, second, and also how they can make their product on their own. So these holy colors were made eco-friendly via corn flour, and we also used a sort of vegetable products so that these are also safer for the skin. So this was backed by by an evidence-based practice as to how they can understand in making such products, and how then we worked on their marketing skills and understanding how they can then propagate this idea. So this is one of the projects that I had taken up during my time and as a part of my journey into social impact and community services. Other than that, I've also had the privilege of meeting a lot of people who have shared a lot of their lessons with me. So that is exactly why I realized that I wanted to do something in this field of social impact and community service. Eventually, when I've been a part of a humanities background back in school. So I eventually realized, reading all of those subjects, how important human interactions mean to us and how important it is to understand other people, their behavioral patterns. So during my time as a school student, I explored different subjects of humanities, and I realized that how important social sciences are. So social sciences, to be very honest, in India, social sciences are not much respected. Even though we say that there is an increasing, like there's a rise in more people opting for humanities and social sciences, but there's still like a lot of questioning that goes behind, even if a school topper is going for a 10th grade school topper is going for humanities or social sciences. That is when I wanted that I'm not someone who would just go into certain mainstream things. I really wanted to try something unique. So I went for humanities, I went for social studies, even though at times I was one of those children who did not score well in social studies because everybody else thought that this is just about rote memory learning. But I eventually realized that this is not just about rote memory learning, it is maybe revisiting pasts, analyzing things, and that the sort of analysis that comes with social studies is something that is so important to all of us. That I eventually realized that I'll be someone who would propagate the same and talk more about humanities and social sciences, and the need to have more children into it, and also understand that social sciences is not just a backward subject which mostly people and mostly parents consider it to as. I have luckily had a lot of support and understanding into opting for this decision. So this sort of decision which was taken by me as a very academic oriented student back in school was something that came as a shock to a lot of people. But as because a lot of people, like whenever they used to see my face, they had just one question: you must have taken PCB or PCM. But then when I used to tell them that I've taken humanities, they were a lot shocked. So I eventually wanted to do well in the fields of social sciences and humanities. Uh, Even though there was a brief period where I personally myself went into a spiral down where like there were a lot of people telling me that there won't be good careers except just law and economics. But I wanted to understand that what else can I derive out of this interdisciplinary approach. And that is when I realized I gave all the entrances possible as a high school graduate, and I understood where my interests lied, and I understood what else I could do as a social science student and making other people understand how important social sciences are. I personally had also wanted to start my own initiative on social studies, but I still could not do that. But I'm sure I'll have that very soon as well, because we need to understand that these are not just subjects for rote memory learning or just made for the books. But I think history plays a very important part in future. Political science is also equally important to understand, and psychology also helps us in becoming a better individual ourselves. So such subjects are also vital for us as individuals. And I'm really glad that I could then finally come to this decision of pursuing these subjects now in college. I am deeply inspired by Subodh sir's profile, and I've been looking at I've understood that there's a lot that we can do with this degree in economics, and then further advancing into public policy and the kind of things that we can do as a part of this field. So I would really like to know from sir's perspective on as to how important social sciences, the perspective of social sciences has become now than how it was earlier.
I think the situation is the same. Even in my time, the whole thing was okay, you have to do PCM or PCB. And I we didn't have 12 at that time. It was only up to 11 high school. And I was in PCM. It was really not a difficult thing for me to be in PCM. So I was in PCM. But then I was not going to do engineering, which was the main objective of everybody, because you couldn't be a doctor anymore. You had to be an engineer, and IITs were, by that time, I'm talking 1966, were quite well established. And everybody was aiming to get into IIT. And the schools also wanted their students, the students who got good marks, to get into IIT. Those schools didn't really pressurize me that much. As it happens, my family is in humanities also. So for me, it was not a big issue that, look, you don't have to do engineering. It's not something that was, my father had an MA in history, so it was no big deal to do economics or to do something else. So it was all right, because there was no pressure of any kind. But the social pressures were there. That was very clear. And people used to think, well, if you don't do engineering, then you must be aiming to become IAS or some other UPSC. Because that, engineers at that time did not go into UPSC. This came much later, that you did engineering or an MBA and then shifted to UPSC. It wasn't there. People were not doing that. So it was okay, fine, you're going to be in UPSC exams of some type, or you're going to be an academic, which was also okay. Or maybe you will be a lawyer. So those were really the three things you could, you had to do a BA at that time before you could do your law LLB. So fine, you do your BA in something, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just the entrance for the law. And then you become a lawyer, and lawyers were well respected. The members of Lok Sabha, a lot of them were lawyers, right? So it was not something that, and even, the top leaders, Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer, right? Nehru was a lawyer. So being a lawyer was not like a negative thing. There were famous lawyers of that time, like Nanki Palkhiwala, and they were also well known. And some few people could do a CA, chartered accountants. But there was no, today it is very much organized. At that time, it was all very random and personal. So those were the choices at that time. And it very much depended on your family background and then your skills. Management, of course, you could get into IIM, but you had to have a bachelor's degree before you could try for. That was also well established by then. So really, you had to get a bachelor's degree in something. And for me, it was an easy choice to take economics. It was not like a big discussion or family issues. Nobody would say, why are you doing economics? In your family, they do such things. So it was all right. It was, these people are like that. They do these crazy things. It was all right. So the careers were, of course, already clear. You could have a job in the banks. State Bank of India was big, and you could get into that kind of a job. Or you could be an academic, or you could do UPSC. So those were the real choices after doing my master's in economics. For me, it was very clear. There were basically three. One was become an academic, if you can get into a top-class university. And at that time, the information wasn't there like you have now. We really had no way to know what was going on in which university abroad. There's some vague knowledge of it. Even finding the mailing address was a job. Where will you look it up? Because there was no books or something. Anyway, whatever it was, competition was less. So that's one job. Second choice was obviously UPSC. And the third choice was to be a writer, which was very risky because how do you know you're a good writer? There's no test or anything. How you get established? But in the end, I did get admission into a good university abroad with money, so the decision was made. And it has been what should I say, a very happy journey for me. So I think I've said enough. Anything else you want to ask?
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights. I personally have had a very roller coaster time in navigating college life. Because now that we had CUET for getting into Delhi University, there was a lot of confusions that happened. There were a lot of organizations that were like manipulating students as to gain like into weird tactics into getting into different universities, like you need to do this, you need to do that, even though at the end all of it was actually very simple. So I think students who are currently in school should also understand that please don't get into weird traps that do happen lately with these CVT organizations. Just just stick to your studies. I personally followed my own self-study methods. I understood what was comfortable for me. That is exactly how I got into Delhi University and how I could manage into continue my journey into Delhi University. So I think at first, for me, even I personally wanted to pursue law. I had decided, I had given CLAT, ALET, but then eventually I realized that my interests was just majorly in the surface level legal studies and not much deeper into it. I realized that I could do much better in a different field. So I then decided to do this degree. And I think personally, lately it has become a very different trend that we just don't need a degree. We also need experience along with that. We need more pragmatic experience to stand out. We need that we do something different, something like creating our own box, as you had like mentioned. So that is something that I had also understood with people around me, with people in college, looking at other people on different platforms and what I can do, what they can do. And that is exactly how I could finalize as to how where should I then be traveling on my journey,
Yeah,
what path should I be taking.
yeah,
Then
sure.
during my first year I had a very good time in understanding what sort of options were available to me. Even I thought that I would give UPSC back in ninth grade, but then I eventually realized that I think I should try something else first, because then I was a bit more flexible towards other options, that I could see that there were more other budding organizations, other budding sectors that are now flourishing very well. So I personally had a good time in understanding what sort of things were right and wrong for me. And I tried to put my step forward in anything and everything that I could do during my first year. I tried a few internships. The very first one was from a newspaper based in Mumbai. And then lately, I then joined an organization in understanding how research works, to understand how I can post and publish my research articles. And then I personally had a good time in understanding how I can do well in in terms of graphic designing. So I had my creative side open that way. I had a very fun time in learning about graphic designing back in 10th grade. So alongside my studies back in school, I did a lot of courses. I understood how I could try different things outside of my academics, and that is something that I recommend to other people as well. And these courses then really helped me in understanding what was right for me. And these are some of the pastimes that I now have, uh, some activities that I can now do alongside studying for my exams or alongside preparing for my internals or midterms. And that is something that has really helped me a lot. Uh, And I have had a good time in doing different extracurriculars as well. I had joined the debating society of my college in my first year. I had participated in a few competitions. I also went for a lot of policy competitions. Now we do have trendy policy competitions in the Delhi University circuit, where they give you different cases and you have to create different policies or establish certain programs. And that is where I could find that this is something that I really find very interesting. I participated in over 10 competitions within my first 2 semesters. And in those semesters, I could realize that how fun it was to have your own cases in hand, and how fun it was to navigate through problems and also make my decision making skills better. I could also win a few like first or second positions in them. I also got the opportunity to participate in the Tata Institute of Social Sciences competition, where I not only put forward my graphic designing skills, but also these research skills. So it really helped me a lot in understanding what sort of these competitions have also helped me in understanding what is right for me. So I would really also recommend people who are watching this to participate in as much competitions as you can in your first year. You have case competitions, business competitions, such policy competitions, debate competitions, music competitions, especially because these open our creative sides and these also help us in pushing beyond our academics. And other than that, I had also involved myself into various academic projects. I studied about how participatory democracies worked. I also studied about how important it is to research, because we are not just going through different documents, but we are also analyzing what our opinion is and what is right for us. So research now is something that is a very, very important part of my life to me. I'm usually thinking about what now I can do next, and I have been doing some projects related to the achieving economic equity for marginalized women, psephological analysis of upcoming Delhi elections. Because of my interest in political economy, I have taken up different projects which I can do for myself and learn from people who are professionals in this areas, so that I can also improvise and flourish in such domains. So that is something that I've also covered up in my first year. Other than that, I've had a good time in actually making mistakes. So I've made a lot of mistakes and I've also learned from them. So these mistakes have helped me analyze where should I put my foot forward. So this has also actually made me understand how important it is for me to manage my time. And I think this is one problem that a lot of students face lately. They don't know how to manage their time. And it is including me, because I personally have a lot of tasks, a lot of stacks. Like there's a lot on my list, but I don't know what to do, no matter how many approaches I follow. So, sir, I would like to know what would be your opinion on managing time, because especially for children like us who are in college, who want to do so much, who have so many interests, who have so many tasks in hand. How did you get through, especially into like so doing so much of things along with your academics and along with your work, like along with your professional life? And how
Uh,
should we as students be
I
doing it?
think you're worrying too much. I think you're worrying too much. I think, this whole business of time management, it's very important, I think, when you are preparing for entrance exams and so on, right? Because you need to get so many things covered in different papers in a short period of time. So it's very important there. But I think in what you are trying to do, I think passion is more important than time management. Do what comes to your heart, right? Give that priority. If some other thing doesn't happen, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself. Time management is good in very structured situations where you have a real deadline. Right? Then, of course, the exam is there, the test is there, something is there. You have to be managing your time. But when you are looking to achieve new things, really, time management is not important. It's follow your heart. Do what you feel like doing. Do it. And that will give you much better results than trying to have an optimization which is based on what, some notion that these are the various objectives. I have to juggle my time. It's not the right approach, I would say. I would say do what is in your heart first. And then if there's time for other things, fine. Follow your passion. But this is what will give you the result. Where your heart is, where your mind is, and your physical time is. It doesn't matter whether you do, as you know, they're diminishing returns. If you do 10 things as opposed to 7, no one can keep track of the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Even you can't keep track of the 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's, I think, it's best to get the most out of what your heart is in. Do that. Get it successful. Get it to your own satisfaction, because you are really also catering to yourself. You don't just cater to the world. In the exams, etc., you are catering to the world. Because there's a physical test or whatever, if you are a marathon runner, then obviously you got to train for the marathon, and there's a process and there's a time. But here you are trying to be yourself and you are trying to create. So don't put yourself under time management discipline. Rather put yourself into your passion. This is what I want to do. Okay. And in the end, even when you go for a job interview, they may see on your CV that you did 7 different things, but they'll like to hear only of one. Okay, tell us about what you are proud of. Then if you say, well, I'm proud of my time management, that is not, it's not the army here, no, where you have to be. So that's not going to be your answer. That's not going to be your achievement, that you are good at time management. Yes, of course, time management is important. But what is it that your creativity is? What is it that you have achieved? Then you say, look, this is, so I would say it's enough to do 3 or 4 different things. Your heart is, you are still in college. It's time to enjoy. You never get this back. Time to enjoy, time to have fun. And keep your time management for structured deadlines. For everything else, let your heart and mind run where they want to run. So I would say that is today's age, where there's so many options, that it can be too harsh of you if you try to do too many things. And nobody really cares what is the 11th thing that you did. Nobody cares. Even you don't care. So that's what I would say, that look, go where your heart is. Go where your heart is. And do it so that you are satisfied. You should be your own judge. You cater to yourself, what I'm saying. Cater to yourself, right? In the other things, you have to cater to the world. Why don't you just cater to yourself? Okay, I think that's a reasonable answer.
Yes, sir, I completely agree because at times, as soon as we're out of school, we're out of a very different environment to another different environment. We often forget that we're out in the world and we're not just here to for others, but we're also here for ourselves. And I've also realized this over time because whenever my parents come and tell me that I think I should that you should be taking care of yourself, that is exactly where I have taken my time in understanding that taking care of ourselves is also equally important. Because sometimes us as students get so involved and so invested into the rat race and the kind of hustle culture that has been going on that we do forget as to what we should be doing for ourselves, what really makes us happy. And that is something that if to those who are watching this, to please take care of your physical health, mental health, because that is something that is also equally important. And managing all of this through all of the things that we wish to do is equally important because if we are not healthy, then we'll not be able to complete everything that we want to. And on that, I have also understood how I need to manage other things alongside my academics. And on that, I've also done a few internships, especially since this July. And it actually took me a lot of time into navigating into how should I gain more practical experience, because that is exactly what what people like me need, because there's a lack of opportunities when it comes to not just the top tier colleges, because most of them have very proficient internship and placement cells, and they're very good connections which can actually help us in getting into bigger organizations. So I started my journey into internships, basically did two internships, which I've also mentioned earlier in my first year. Then I was constantly on the lookout of getting something. I actually became very toxically hungry for them, because I thought that I really needed something. I really needed to do something. So it took me a lot of time. I actually spent my summer vacations in navigating, not just wanting to do work, but also understanding if that work is right for me or not. So it took me a lot of time into settling myself, and it for others as well. It may take them a lot of time into settling into it. I did first the very first internship this year. That was in July. That was with Jawaharlal Nehru University. I worked towards implementing international education programs for students. Next, I did my very first on-site internship. That was actually a very beautiful experience for me. It was at the World Intellectual Foundation. So I had my very disciplined girl era. And as people do call it these days, that we need to be a little more disciplined. We need to understand early in our lives what is important for us, and try hands-on experience as to what we want to do after college. So I worked as a policy research intern at this budding think tank, and I had a good time in understanding, like making questionnaires, research methodologies, and administrating these questionnaires, and understanding the Delhi government structure. So there were a lot of things that I did as a part of my internship there. Eventually, this was one thing that actually ended up making me confident at the end of my first year, which I was not feeling earlier, despite of trying whatever I could. Then eventually, I also have been presently doing an internship at Center for Civil Society, which is a renowned think tank, and I'm really, really, really grateful that I got this internship, because I've learned a lot from them, and I've the kind of experience that I'm getting there is something that is extremely exceptional, and I've understood the kind of things that I can do for my degree, and has really added more pragmatic experience. So for getting these internships, I would recommend that people have a very have a structured CV, even if there's no experience, because I personally did not have any substantial experience to put in, and what sort of things and skills that they can develop. So having this in a structured format, and just basically having good interest in such fields, can really help them in gaining more opportunities in this domain. And further, having a good writing sample is also equally important. So gaining advice on this from professionals, from PhD scholars, or just asking people around you if this is right or not. Sometimes even your friends and your professors will actually help in having a good writing samples. Then using internet for the right things, which is surfing for the right things, like what do I like the most, whether it is which domain, whether it is finance, whether it is academia, whether it is policy, or whether it is political consulting. So that is one of those few things that you can do to get such internships, and that has really, really helped me. And I'm still on the lookout of connecting with more people and understanding my interests, and understanding that there is a sort of a return on investment that I would want in future from this degree that I'm pursuing, and the kind of application based things that I really wish to do. And one thing that has really helped me in my educational journey so far is pursuing courses alongside. That is to say that I have done a course on, I've pursued a diploma on government and governance studies, which was basically out of interests. I really wanted to understand the parliamentary and government structure. So I did this diploma from Indian Institute of Governance and Leadership. Other than that, I also have been pursuing French language. So understanding French language has been very, very important for me, because I've been fascinated with the kind of French literature that is there, and the kind of French accent, because my personal motive into getting into French language is because whenever people spoke it in an accent, it seemed really fun to me. So that is when I wanted to get into into studying this language. I am almost on the verge of completing my A2 level, and to improvise into studying a foreign language, I started teaching people who were younger than me. And this really helped me in knowing what was right for me, and how understanding that how I can improvise getting better into foreign languages. So if there's anyone who wishes to learn a foreign language, they should always put it into practical application, like maybe teaching others, maybe teaching ourselves, sometimes having a little plushie with you, which you can teach so that you can have greater writing and listening practice as well. So these are a few things that I've done in my first year and within the 1.5 years of my college lately, and I've had a good time into navigating what is right for me and not. And as said earlier, I've also made a good set of mistakes, which has helped me in understanding what is right for me and where should I be going ahead. And I'm someone who was earlier a lot afraid of making mistakes, but now I have realized that perfection is not the only solution, and that is exactly how we also refine our own decision making abilities and gaining clarity of thought, as we had discussed earlier. So this is something that has been a very important part of my journey so far, and I'm really, really grateful to be here on this platform, especially to share this with you because you're genuinely a very huge inspiration for all of us.
All right.
And I'm extremely happy that I got to be here and could
All right.
share my thoughts so far.
Thank you, Mishti. I must say that it's very impressive what you have achieved, what you've done. It's actually shocking, you know.
Sir, I could not have done this without my family support.
Yeah, I
So
know,
I think that is
but still,
extremely good.
in the end, it is shocking, you know. It's really a pleasure to hear somebody say all these things. It's really amazing, and thank you so much for it. Let's end it here today, unless you have some last things to say.
So just one last thing. I
Please.
really wanted to thank my family, my mother and my father for always being here with me, my sibling for always helping me out, my seniors at college, who have always guided me for the right things. All of the company that I've been surrounded with has actually led me into doing what is right for me because I personally I've had a journey where I equally faced a lot of issues, whether it was mentally or physically. So I could understand with their opinions and their guidance what was right for me, to my school teachers, college professors, and especially to you for actually motivating me into getting to like be here, because I earlier was very reluctant, as I'd shared in a message that I personally think that I should do more, but I'm sure that I really wish to make them proud, and I really wish that I do better in future as well. So I'm really, really grateful for this, and I'm thankful to you as well, and
Okay.
I really look forward to be on your side someday and also
Okay.
help younger people.
I will discuss some opportunities with you offline. Let's end it here today, and I'll be back with another young person or an expert. Till then, bye, everybody.